I'm Craig Palmer. I'm the CEO of MakersPlace. Traditional art market, from studies I've seen, is generally about a $50 billion market, and NFTs are about the same size. So if you think of how long the traditional marketplace has been, it took to get established and how quickly NFTs got to that kind of scale, even though it's, again, just at the starting line and people are just figuring out how to leverage what you can do in this space in the most unique ways, it really has already grown to be a massive marketplace. To be honest with you, I hate that question because it's, I've been in this 35 years and it's very hard to predict. In markets of this sort that are really so new and so different, and with such rapid evolution and change occurring in it, it's very hard to predict exactly what 5 years looks like. What I hope it looks like is one in which the market has moved beyond just crypto speculators and technically savvy buyers to something that has crossed the chasm. If you remember Jeffrey Moore's iconic book, I actually worked with him on that. I think we have to cross the chasm and get to more of the mainstream buyers I want to be able to walk into my friend's house and see an NFT on the wall. I want to be able to go to a music concert and have an NFT purchasing opportunity integrated into the events, so that I buy a T-shirt and a hat, I can buy an NFT. I want to be able to walk into galleries and see NFTs in the wall integrated with traditional art. And I think that's where I'd love for the market to go. I think it's really hard to predict when that tipping point is. A couple of companies ago, I ran a company, Grace Note, that had digital music technology, and one of my friends had invented MP3, Karl-Heinz Brandenburg, and that was in '97. And people at the time predicted that digital music would surpass physical music sales within 3 years. It took 13. And so, I don't know how long it'll take for NFTs to cross the chasm. I hope it's faster than slower, but I hope we're starting to see the signs of that happening, in 5 years. Yeah, I guess the first comment is on the speculative side of it. I'm obviously not a 20-year-old. I've been around for a while. I've lived through the financial meltdown, the internet meltdown, and on the back of all of those market downturns, the really speculative, fluffy things that really aren't businesses that last get weeded out, and the quality businesses thrive and grow over time. And so, in the context of NFTs, I think, although there certainly have been a lot of speculative vehicles in the marketplace, just the idea that somebody can work in a new art form that's very different. It marries static and motion and sound in ways that you couldn't do with traditional art. It can marry physical and digital together in ways that's really unique. And it really represents the democratization of art, because somebody can be a new artist in Poughkeepsie and sell their work to somebody in Mumbai, and that person in Mumbai doesn't need to have a credit card or a bank account. And so just the idea of opening up a global marketplace that doesn't have middlemen is really an amazing thing. And I think although the market exploded, pre-Beeple, it was maybe a couple $100 million market. Right after Beeple in 21, it became a $25 billion market. It's still a massive market, but it's such a nascent market. It's really at the starting line in terms of what I think NFTs will become. Having just spent a day and a half at Token 249 here in Singapore and seeing the mass of people that are working in companies that are excited about it, there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot more technological development in the space, a lot more money coming into the space. It's going to permeate just Web3 blockchain, NFTs, going to permeate a lot more aspects of a global population's life. And so that is absolutely going to bring new money into it. There will be fits and starts and stops. We're in a stop right now with the market slowdown. There's no doubt in my mind that this will become much more of a mainstream thing. I do think one of the things that has to happen, though, is that, if you think about the traditional space, you can usually buy with confidence because you know provenance, you know the history, you know there is likely going to be some increasing value of something if it has a history, if it's an artist that has a history of success, et cetera. And I think what the NFT space needs to do, beyond people just coming in and say, I like that, I buy it, I like it, I buy it, or this is super speculative and I just think it's going to be worth $1 million down the road, is have the confidence that what they're buying from the artist they're buying from has legs, will last, will hold or acquire value. And I think once that happens, once it becomes more mainstream, once there's more of a traditional historical perspective on what's available in the NFT marketplace, you will have increasing amounts of money that are coming in from people who have confidence that this thing lasts forever. I'm going to answer the question generally because I think it applies whether you're an artist in the field we're talking about or you're a music artist or whatever. You have to grind to create a following. You need to be active on social. You need to build a following. You may need to start building a Discord. You have to build an audience. And you have to just grind to be able to do that. And the ones that are most successful, now there's always the 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 that just takes off just because, but the vast majority of people really have to grind, and they have to do it one sale at a time, one collector at a time, and just build that audience that becomes your fan base, that will support you, that will talk about you, that will continue to follow you and engage with you. And one of the beauties of NFTs, and actually a reason why a lot of physical artists love NFTs, is for the first time you can talk to the people that buy. If I'm putting a physical painting on a wall in a gallery, I may never talk to the buyer of it. I may not even know who it is. In the NFT world, you could talk to your buyers every day. And if you want to, and care and feed them and meet with them when you're in cities. And so you just have to work at it to be able to build an audience. But it's in your control. And in the traditional world, it wasn't really in your control. This is in your control if you work at it to be able to build an audience and build that following and start building a mass of people who will buy and follow you and help you. I'd say we have both, and we have really two primary ways. We have a business development team that is constantly looking for new artists that they can reach out to, communicate. Maybe the artists are on other marketplaces. Maybe we see them in the press. Maybe we see them in social channels, et cetera, and we reach out to them and work to bring them on board. That's an extremely effective mechanism. But frankly, one of the most effective mechanisms is our community doing the work themselves. And we have a program where we anoint curators in our community who really love breaking new artists, bringing artists on board, and to a certain extent, curating their own show by bringing new artists and launching works into the marketplace. And we get a tremendous number of new artists coming into our marketplace through our own community's efforts, which is fabulous, actually, because to a great extent, that is the Web3 ethos. Well, I mean, the way that we look at applications when we get them in is we do look at a combination of factors, and it's not a black and white thing. It's never a black and white thing in this world. You look at it and you go, man, that's really good. It feels authentic. It's art. You look, and then you check out, do they have a following? Do they have a social footprint? Have they exhibited anywhere in the past, et cetera? Sometimes the art being good enough is enough, and it should be. In those cases, it's another reason, well, it is a reason I haven't talked about yet, but one of the new things we did this year is build a middle market product. We've always had the marketplace. Anybody that's approved can put works up there. And then we had kind of the premium offerings, which are if you're one of the top artists, we do drops with you, we promote, we do press, we do events, et cetera. But we created a middle tier this year, which was what we call our emerging artist category, where either we ourselves see, really quality, interesting artwork, or our community proposes artists that they see as emerging, and then we have special products for them that we call spotlights and exhibits. Or exhibits, we can spotlight an artist, or we could create an exhibit of a number of works, or that artist in an exhibit on a theme that includes other artists, and use that vehicle to build awareness for somebody who's really good who hasn't yet broken through. And so, I guess the combination is, ideally you have the artist working hard to do what they can to build the audience and the following, and we try to do our part at MakersPlace to provide a vehicle for aspiring artists who we see as really good to have some promotion and some visibility above and beyond, the masses that are in just our general marketplace. I think there's a lot of different cohorts of artists in this space. There will be traditional artists who will never, ever be in the NFT space. There will be some who tried it and then liked it so much, even though they had a massive following and were selling at extremely high value. Urs Fischer is a great example of that. His works in the physical side sold for tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he transitioned and is doing just NFTs these days, and still has works that are selling in tens of hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands to low hundreds of thousands. I take an artist that we worked with this week, Matt Gondek, who is a traditional artist, but he was a traditional artist because he had to be, because there wasn't any value before NFTs in digital art, but he did a lot of his sketches in digital and then physically painted them. And he uses NFTs as an on-ramp for his physical collectors. So he often does NFTs and has a physical object tie into it to onboard his physical collectors who are skeptical a little bit about NFTs, so they can buy an NFT and then trade it in for the physical if they don't want to keep the NFT, but it gives them the choice. And many of them keep the NFT, and then they start becoming part of the NFT world. And so I think you're going to have people that won't ever want to cross over. I think you'll have people that try it and find it can be just as valuable as the traditional space. You have people that are really creative on pushing the edges of it and using it in unique ways like Matt. But it's going to be, I think it's impossible to have kind of a one-size-fits-all analysis of it, given the complexity of human nature in this space. Yeah, I think the parallel of an NFT collector to a physical collector is similar. You might have somebody who just buys what they like, and that's good enough. And then you might have people buy because they are considering making an investment of $20,000 or whatever it is into art that they believe will appreciate, the same way that you might do it in wine if you like buying first growth Bordeaux's, and that will appreciate. And I think, the best help I think that a new collector can have is getting a sense of what other people who know what they're doing as financial collectors and have a methodology of approaching it, looking at what they're doing, understanding, and trying to learn from it, and creating your own strategy based on what you learn. The same way you buy stocks, the same way you buy anything that you hope increases in value. And I think that's something that there needs to be more, I think, work on the technology side of it to be able to make it easier to understand those things if you're, a user or a collector, just starting. Versus I go to a marketplace and I just see 200,000 or 1 million things and go, what do I do? Well, I mentioned earlier the book Crossing the Chasm, which was an iconic book, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the thesis of it was, you never get to the mainstream until the complete product it takes to get there is actually finished. And oftentimes people see the momentum of early stage markets because they're fueled by early adopters, as NFTs were, fueled by crypto speculators and technologically savvy people. But then it takes a crapload of things to fix to get over the hump. You look everywhere in the NFT space, and things have to improve in many different places, and holes have to be filled. I have to have better ways to discover things when I go to a marketplace that aligns with what I'm looking for versus just seeing 200,000 things. I need simpler ways to buy. It's still complex for a lot of people with dealing with wallets and moving tokens around from market to market. Try to get an NFT into a frame sized properly. It's a mess. I could go all over. There's things all over the place that need to get fixed. Like I said earlier, I want to walk into a gallery, see an NFT. I want my friends to have one. So I think if you actually created a list of all the things that you wanted to fix so that it became, a market 100 times bigger and into the mainstream, it's a lot of things. It's not like one simple thing that has to be fixed, but it's going to take some time to knock off all of these, or sand off all of these rough edges so that it becomes a frictionless experience for people who want to participate in this marketplace and not have to feel like they're geeks to be able to do it. I guess the way I'd start answering that question is, especially in this marketplace, you have to package the offering right, at the right price, in the right construction, et cetera. And, we support one-of-ones, one-of-ends, open editions, and my team works really hard on trying to figure out, here's an artist, they're oriented in this fashion, their audience, can afford to buy in this range. How do we capture the high end of the market for the couple that want to buy a one-on-one, or maybe a couple one-on-ones? But also, do we also want to bring an open edition in because there's 1,000 people that might want to buy one at a couple $100 along with, and so we try to figure out how to get the packaging right, because it's completely necessary. So I think you want a toolkit that has a lot of flexibility, but then it's incumbent on the team and then your interaction with the artists to figure out what's the right construction of an offering to be able to sell properly and extract the maximum amount of money. For those of you that don't know MakersPlace, we are an NFT marketplace. We are a closed and curated marketplace, so you have to apply, you have to be vetted and approved to exhibit your works in our space, and that keeps the quality high. It makes sure that we're not inundated with fraud or trademark or copyright issues with our works and our artists. And we've also been one of the, I think, most innovative companies in the marketplace. We were the first to allow purchasing in crypto and in fiat. We were the first to bring a custodial wallet to a marketplace. And we were the first to partner with an auction company when we brought Beeple, who had been selling NFTs in MakersPlace, to Christie's to sell the iconic 5,000 Days that went for $69 million. So we've been around for a while, one of the pioneers, and excited to be here chatting with you today. Yeah, we have a lot of things that we're working on right now. I'll mention a couple of them. One, we're working on enhancing our architecture to support manifold contracts, which is becoming a more standard thing. However, what's the difficult part of external contracts in a marketplace is supporting them both with crypto and with fiat. It's actually quite difficult to bring something like a manifold contract into a marketplace and enable the payment in either crypto or fiat. And we have about 50% of our buyers who pay in fiat. And so that's a big deal. We're going to be launching that capability a little bit later this year. Another program that we want to put in place is really spotlighting collectors in a unique way. We've always focused on spotlighting the artists that we work with. Here's their background, here's what they do. We do an interview with them, we do social outreach, etc. We want to dial up the spotlight on some of the influential collectors in the space in a way that we can highlight them, show our users and our buyers and our audience in general and our community, how collectors think, what kind of things they're acquiring, what does their portfolio look like, what are things that they might recommend thinking about in terms of artists that are favorite or genres of art that are really interesting, et cetera, and provide a vehicle for multiple influential collectors to have, their ethos presented to our community in a way that could be helpful for people who are trying to learn how to approach this marketplace in the right way. And actually, we're on the front edge of developing that, but we're really excited about that being something that could be really helpful to the community at large. Yeah, I mean, MakersPlace right now is only on Ethereum at the moment. I guess my perspective is we won't add a blockchain for just a blockchain space. It's not like we think 10 blockchains are better than one. There are reasons why you might want a second blockchain. One of the things that was always the case in the Ethereum chain is that sometimes gas fees could be expensive. And for certain classes of NFTs, that could be a problem. Not necessarily if you're selling a $10,000 piece of art in an NFT, but if you're selling a Shakira NFT or a Zlatan Ibrahimovic NFT, which we also work in the sports arena, in the music arena, those kind of things tend to be lower priced. Gas fees that are high are meaningful in that space. And so we likely will do a second blockchain down the road that's targeted at what we need to support different classes of NFTs in the right way. And again, I'm not really, I don't have the perspective. Is Solana a better blockchain or Ethereum a better blockchain? Ethereum works great for us in the class of NFTs that we focus heavily on, but there are good reasons to want a second blockchain, maybe even more down the road, around things that support the kind of initiatives you have in the NFT space. I'd prefer that one solved all of it. That would just be easier, but that's not the way that this world works. Well, I can tell you some of the things that I've liked. Now, full disclosure, I have not been collecting NFTs for years. I don't think I would be considered a financial collector yet. I may become one, but I just collect things that I like. And I also collect things oftentimes that are supporting artists in MakersPlace that I just want to be successful also. If the combination is I like it and they're working with us, that is also a good combination. But, I've really liked Hackatow. I really liked Craig Mullins, who's a traditional artist that did his Genesis drop at MakersPlace. He was heavily promoted by Beeple and Jaehan Chu, who's a large collector in the space. I really like Javier Arez, that both his individual art, but he also teamed with, at the suggestion of MakersPlace, with Thelonious Monk IV, who wanted to bring NFTs to market to represent his Thelonious Monk's legacy, actually. And so Javier Arez did art that on brand with Thelonious, and the estate had clips of Thelonious playing things or talking about music and jazz in ways that, and with IP that wasn't owned by the label, so that got attached to the NFTs, and so I bought one of those. So those are the kinds of things that I like. From the collector perspective, I've appreciated getting to know you a little bit more, and I'm curious to learn more about how your head works on this side. In my visit with Singapore, I spent quite a bit of time with Whale Shark, who also has an interesting perspective on the way he collects, which I like. And I'm having breakfast with Jaehan Chu tomorrow, so I'm going to talk to him. But I'm still learning in this marketplace. I only took over MakersPlace in February, and I'm taking every chance that I can to meet people who are influential at both the creator and the artist side, or in the collector side. I can give you one other analogy, actually, of how difficult it is to predict, if you want. So I mentioned Gracenote, and at Gracenote, when I started, it was set up to be really an internet technology company. First product was putting a music CD into a computer, and it told you what the album artist track was. It was totally set up to be big database, software integrated with internet products and computer products. And I got a call from a guy in Japan, out of the blue, who said, I am working with Panasonic, who's going to launch the first car navigation unit aftermarket. And this was back in 2001 or 2. And because this unit has a good processor, a good display, it has storage, and it has a CD slot, we'd like to do something with music. Can you create an embedded version of your CD recognition product to go into our car unit? And it was so out of the blue. I mean, car navi seems so normal now, but back then it wasn't even clear exactly how well they would work. We didn't have embedded version of our code. Our database was too big. We had to take a real flyer to create embedded code, hired people that were good at that, figured out how to cut a slice of data out of our database that would only be the most popular stuff in music. And it launched with Panasonic. It was so popular that every other car navigation aftermarket supplier put us in. Because we were in all the aftermarket products for cars, Lexus put us in. Once we were in Lexus, Mercedes, BMW, Cadillac put us in. Once we were in all of those vehicles, the people that made those units also made home products, so they put us in home products. Fast forward, a few years later, 95% of my revenue is royalty based on being integrated into hardware. I never would have predicted that. That would never have been a Harvard business case study, at least in predictive fashion. And so I think those things are hard to predict in markets that are new, and you can find yourself on paths you might have never expected. Appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation very much.